Welcome to the Panic Button, the place where fear meets honesty, humor, and humanity. Let's press in. I'm Craig Ellingson, and in the studio today we have Sean Bagney. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you very much. It is great to be here.
And how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, today's episode is the fear of being your authentic self. So, what does that mean to you, Sean? What does that subject mean?
I think pretty simply, my fear was coming out and acknowledging that I'm a gay man.
And when did that happen for you?
When did I actually come out?
When did you come out, and how did you face that fear?
Oh gosh, it's kind of a long-ish story.
Well, we have about 20 minutes, so I think we can, go ahead.
Muddle through it.
I think we can.
So I came out around 40.
1940s or
40 years old.
Okay, 40 years old. There we go.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that I know that I always knew that I was gay. I didn't know how to articulate it. I didn't want it to be so. And for most of my life, I just packed it away and I was like, no, you're not gay. You're going to do the life that everyone expected you to do. You're going to get married. You're going to have kids, and you're just going to live happily ever after, and it's just going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, full disclosure, listeners, Sean is my husband, and I, too, came out late in life, or I should say later in life, for many of the same reasons.
Right.
So what made you finally face that fear, since we're talking about fear? What made you, open that door, pun intended, to come out of the closet?
Right. So I think fairly simply, over a course of time, I just wasn't comfortable in my own skin. Like, I knew I wasn't comfortable. Outwardly presenting, I'm sure everything looked fine, but I just wasn't comfortable in my own skin.
And that's so interesting because most of us, as LGBTQ+, we don't feel comfortable in our skin until we come out, right? So you felt not comfortable in your skin, and then you felt comfortable in your skin for many years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, nope, I'm no longer feeling comfortable in this skin anymore.
Yep. It worked for a really long time. When I got into my mid-upper 30s, I suppose, I don't even know how it happened. I stumbled in, this is kind of embarrassing. I can't believe I'm just doing this, but I kind of stumbled into gay porn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that. That's,
right.
That's interesting to me. And so I was just kind of doing that. I started off maybe once, and then a month later I'm like, I think I'm going to revisit that. And then it's kind of got to be a little bit more and more. And ultimately what happened, I was married. My ex-wife found it on my computer and said, what is going on? Mm-hmm. And essentially that was then the catalyst that I started going down this journey of some therapy and just a lot of difficult questions, within my own life to, face coming out, I guess.
Right. So it's been interesting over the course of a lot of these podcasts that I've been hosting, based on fear of something. Therapy has been kind of a common theme. And I think part of that fear that we all have at different points in our lives about different subjects all comes back to communicating and being able to acknowledge it, face it, and work through it if that's what you need to do.
Right.
And so the therapy helped you or allowed you to become more focused on your authentic self.
Absolutely. At that point in my life, I had never once shared with anyone that I potentially might be gay, potentially liked men, or anything like that. So it was the first time I was able to talk about it and think about it and just try to process it all.
And what do you think that did for you as you were literally in the midst of facing that fear of your authentic self, of coming out? What did that process allow you to do?
Well, very simply, I think the therapist said it was okay, really. And, honestly, I have to say my ex-wife was definitely a pusher, and I think she didn't want to settle for anything other than a committed, straight husband.
Right.
In therapy, there are options out there. You can still live in the same house. You can see other people. You can, there's all of these, a myriad of different things that can work for different people.
Right.
And she was like, no. If you are gay, you need to live your life, and I need to live my life.
So here's a devil's advocate question, and that is, had she agreed to a different form of your marriage, would you have really became your authentic self, or would you still have been a version of who you are rather than your full authentic self?
I 100% would have been a version. I never would have gotten divorced. I would have just done everything in my power to keep that all together. And a combination of the therapy and her, honestly, is how I got to where I am today.
Right. It's really interesting because, again, the theme of all these podcasts are fear, and how fear really does limit you until you face that fear and you work through it.
And it's so much better on the other side.
Right.
Life is too short to settle. And I think one of the big things, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but I have 2 kids, and that was a huge weight on me. What is this gonna do to them? Are they gonna get made fun of? Are just not having 2 parents in the same home, is that gonna ruin their lives? And I just simply wanted the best for them. And honestly, getting divorced and me being happy, my ex-wife being happy and doing her thing, we were able to really be stronger separate in order to be better parents to them versus fighting in the home or just not being happy. And, they see 2 strong, happy parents.
Right. And I think we always say hindsight is 20/20, but definitely your children are strong, capable young women.
100%.
And I don't think they would have been the same had you not gotten divorced.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that, seeing you in your authentic self makes them happy, which makes their lives happy.
Right.
And then, then they can proceed and progress in their own lives, understanding that happiness is really vital.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what would you have said to your, because, I hate this question, but it gets asked a lot of times, because clearly if you would have changed one major thing in your life, you wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But if you could speak to a listener right now, clearly we understand that in 2025, LGBTQ plus youth and children and young adults are far more open than when we were growing up.
Exactly. Yep.
However, we are clearly living in a time now where the political divide is trying to divide us even more, right? And right now, the T of our LGBT, the trans youth and trans people are really being persecuted, and I'm sure that that's creating a lot of fear and people choosing to become their authentic self. So what kind of advice, if advice is the correct word, would you give to young people who are fearful of maybe talking to their parent or talking to a teacher or talking to a best friend about how they really feel on the inside.
Right. Simply said, I think that you need to explore that, because when you are not your authentic self, you're being held back in so many different ways. You're just not as confident. You're not loving the person that you are supposed to love, perhaps, or you're just not complete. You're not doing all that you can do. And even though it is hard, it is completely worth it to explore whatever you think is going on with you, to figure out how you can be your full self. You'll be so much more successful, so much happier, and it's just freeing.
Mm-hmm. And we do know that, the suicide rates of young LGBT young people who don't come out or have issues is much higher than that. And so finding that support network, finding your tribe, I think is so very, very important. And, having grown up in a small town, I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult.
100%.
But clearly we now have technology where you can reach out to other people and find some sort of safety network on some level. What would you say would be something that has changed about you, or maybe not changed, maybe enhanced once you became your authentic self? How do you feel different or more empowered, or are you exactly the same?
I mean, I think that I am similar. I think now I not only exude some confidence, I'm actually confident within myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that my connections with people are so much stronger.
Talk more about that, because I understand where you're coming from, but delve into that a little bit.
Right. I think, being younger in high school and all of those things, I thank goodness was not bullied a lot. I wasn't really bullied. I was questioned. People were like, are you gay? Or, maybe little things here and there, but I really somehow managed to get through it fairly unscathed. But I never really felt like I fit in. Like, with my guy friends, I'm like, I don't watch enough sports. I like to play sports, but I don't like to watch them. I don't like to play video games, and I just never really fully felt like I fit in. I always had a girlfriend, of course. The girls love, and I don't mean that's maybe that is not an okay thing to say.
Loved you.
They loved me. And,
they loved you.
And I enjoyed, having girlfriends and, all of that. And I think now, straight friends, both male and female, I feel a true connection.
Right.
And I definitely think my relationships with people are so much better than they were for me.
I'm going to totally agree with you, both for you, but also for myself, because I could not really engage in friendships in the same way because I was not being who I was. And so It's not like what it was that I can't share with you who I really am, so I can't really be your friend, right? And so that's why I don't have many friends from for high school and even undergrad, right?
Yeah.
And more people probably knew about me in grad school, but now the core group of friends that I have, that you have as well,
right.
I mean, they are friends.
Right.
And, most of them would do almost anything for me, for you, for us. And that's because we are being ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we are definitely ourselves with them. And they see us for our strengths, our flaws, but they love us as who we are as authentic human beings versus someone who's trying to hide something.
Right. Yep. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. What has been something that has been more of a hurdle for you as you have come out to claim your authentic self?
Let me see. What has been a hurdle?
And maybe hurdle isn't the correct word. Something that might have been more difficult than you anticipated. Something that might have been more of a hiccup rather than something devastating.
Right.
Right.
I think the hiccup or one of my biggest regrets about coming out was I came out only when I had to. So the friends I had in college that now live in Alexandria or Minneapolis or, even on the coast, I just didn't tell them. I waited until somebody reached out or I had to reach out. And so I had this very slow, I wouldn't do it that way again, just this slow, laborious coming out process. And I wish I had just thrown it out on Facebook, just gotten the whole thing done with, And so I think that's probably my biggest regret. And I mean, in fact, one of my good friends in college, I didn't even tell. He lives in North Carolina, and I just didn't have, I don't know what it was. I think it was hardest with my guy high school and college friends coming out just because I did feel like, not that I was lying, because I really believed it at the time. I really believed it at the time, but that was the hardest group of people for me to come out to.
Mm-hmm. Authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the next chapter for you in your authentic life?
I am just going to keep on going strong.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, if I were able to be in a position to help someone else or to be that sounding board for somebody, or even within a friend or a friend of a friend, if I can be supportive in some way. Otherwise, I really feel great in who I am and the way that my life is going, and I could not be any happier right now.
I would say this, that I think that because of who you are and how you're presenting yourself now, right, that you've really allowed your children to become more authentic and to have their voices more assured of themselves and who they are and what they want in life, which I think is really important because, I think children learn by example. And I think because of that, that you are championing them to lead more authentic lives and whatever that means to them.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I feel like I see them doing that. So I think they're definitely seeing the example of their parents and live a very healthy, well-balanced life.
And I think that that's what it really has to be, is this well-balanced between being able to talk about things, being able to do things, being able to engage in things, but always being true to yourself and whatever that means for that particular person at that particular time.
Definitely.
So let's say you are thinking about, somebody was thinking about, wanting to have that discussion with that special teacher in high school or that friend of a friend that they think might be gay. What would you tell them to do? How would you speak to them or inspire them to overcome their fear, or how to address that fear? If they wanted to chat with somebody, but they were like, oh, I just don't know. I don't know how I will be accepted. Or do you think that it's just so very different now that those types of discussions aren't as valid?
Honestly, I don't know. What I do know, what I do feel is be respectful of the other person, but broach the topic. Just throw it out there and just give it a try. It's worth it. And if that person has an extremely negative response or something like that, then that's just not a person that you need in your life anyway.
Well, and I think that's another thing about being authentic is that there are people that you don't need in your life
Right.
because they disallow you to be your authentic self, or you need to give them the opportunity to be more supportive and to understand. But at a certain point, they're no longer needed.
True.
Because
And
family of choice is sometimes so much more supportive than family of origin or friends of friends or high school friends or pre-existing friends versus friends that you find within your tribe. And to just realize sometimes in order to be authentic, you cannot be that authentic with everybody because they're not always going to accept you. So then you're no longer friends with them.
right. I mean, if they're not going to accept you, if they're not going to support you, if they're not going to love you, you don't need them. You just don't.
So if you had to use one word to describe yourself as authentic, what would that word be? That's a weird question.
That's a hard question. One word?
Yeah, one word. Or a metaphor or a simile.
I mean, something along the lines of, well, this is kind of like positivity
Okay.
or joy.
Well, what did your little bracelet say the other day? The bracelet.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Well, I think, because I believe just even in the time that we've been together, which is now what, about 10 years?
9.
Yeah.
9. Yeah.
That you have become even more of your authentic self. And it has just been such a wonderful process seeing you just own yourself and then own your environment, own the room, because you are so much more confident. And through that confidence, there is an air of gratitude, of joy about you that I think is rather infectious, and that's because you are really happy with who you are. And I think that is something I would wish for everybody.
Absolutely. And thank you for that.
Well, and thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you for joining me in the studio tonight.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Never done anything like this before.
Right.
I was a little nervous.
I definitely owe you a martini, don't I? I do. Well, that's it for tonight, listeners. Please join us again on the Panic Button.